Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the 401 podcast with Joe Steele. I am your host, Joe Steele. What I'm going to be doing in this episode is very similar to the first episode. I will be reading poetry from poets within the Instagram poetry community. The first person or the first poet up is at the Taste of My Pen, Lois. A few things about her is she curates for a couple of platform accounts, and those platform accounts feature poets and artists that can be found on Instagram. The first one is at We Made You Something, and the second one is at Yellow Penguin NYC. She also has a book out, and a link to that book, which is called Apothecary Bloom by L.R. Sterling, can be found in her bio on her page, or it can be found on Instagram simply by searching that name. She does several things within the poetry community and Instagram. She does Poet Binge, and she also does book reads. Poet Binge is where she'll take a poet and read two or three of their pieces, offer support and thought on those pieces. She does this on her own time, and it is greatly appreciated. I know I appreciate it so much. And the other thing she does is read books, which I think is a great option for people on the go and don't have time to read themselves. They can at least listen while they're driving. I do that at work often with podcasts and books. I love Audible books, and that's basically what she's offering through IGTV. And that can be found on her account again, The Taste of My Pen. All one word. She's also opened up her personal journey, which chronicles her family life with her husband Derek and their daughter, who has special needs. The fact that she was willing to put this out there is encouraging, and it is a great thing. I think society sometimes forgets to pay attention to what's going on in the world and gets caught up too much in the superficial things in life and forgets that there's a wide variety of people out there, and I think all stories should be told. She details all the victories, which to some may seem small, but they are not. They are definitely not. My wife works with special needs, and so I hear about some of these stories myself through that. And I've had a couple of family members who are special needs, and so I'm in full support of that. And I've spoken with a couple of friends of mine on the poetry community who also love reading the stories that she posts and the videos and the pictures and the captions. It's just so incredible that they're willing to do that and put themselves out there like that. It's a beautiful thing. So do check that out. And that's at Life with Lo. And another thing she does, and I'm sure there are many others, but she's a freelance photographer, and she is incredibly gifted. I mean, the talent this woman displays is beyond. I'm just talking about some of the things she does, and I haven't even got to her poetry yet, and her poetry is incredible. Incredible. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get to her piece. And the first couple times I read this, I got a little emotional. I may do that again. I'm not sure. I'm going to start with the caption. And the caption, it says the title of the piece, which is Gash. And then the piece, this piece is extremely personal. Long story short, I'm lucky that I have a husband that gives a damn about my physical and mental health, to the point where he stands behind me in front of a mirror, walking me through the process of self-affirmations where I can barely meet my own eyes. And he has stood by me literally and figuratively. This right reflects his undying love for me and support at my most broken moments, especially this week. Now, I've read this piece. Typically, I do cold reads, but I've read this piece a couple of times, and I just want to get a feel for it. And so it speaks volumes. I'm just going to let the piece speak for itself first, and then I'll offer thought on that. Anyway, so here goes. I bid goodbye to beauty's pill, party favor to my mirror, exercised overdoses for my stomach, illusions of imperfection's flesh. Bathroom doors unhinged, falling to pieces, he caught every last part of me, held me from behind, locking eyes with glass, whispering light in doses of in sickness and in health, in low tones. Look at thyself and speak. I am beautiful. I love myself. Warmth in his eyes, penetrating malnourished bones, clutching all my shades of blackened dress. Never to let go. My guardian light, flesh of my flesh, hold me still as my heart takes root in stronger versions than I. Bitter, closet exposed, skeleton skin suit rendered silent, delicate gash whisper. I love myself. That is brilliant and beautiful poetry. Now, Lois Rose has talked about this several times. She's very open about it, which is so refreshing to be open about your past and your issues and the things you deal with on a regular basis. I bid goodbye to beauty's pill, party favorites my mirror, exercised overdoses from my stomach. Like, them lines, just wow. This piece to me is talking about her battle with eating disorders, which is a huge struggle for so many people in this country. It is unheard of how many people are struggling with this that you would never know. And the fact that she is willing to be so open and honest and forthcoming with it to us all is just an incredible, incredible gift to us. I bid goodbye to beauty's pill, party favorites my mirror, exercised overdoses from my stomach. I keep saying this. It's just incredible. The imagery she creates where she finds a way to express metaphorically what she's going through in her mind and the battle she's fighting and how she gets things out and how she releases. And then she goes on, in illusions of imperfections flesh, bathroom doors unhinged, meaning my doors are now open. He's seeing me like this, and I'm falling to pieces, she says. And the next line, he caught every last part of me, held me from behind, locking eyes with glass. That's love. That's when you know you found somebody and they found you and you two are in love. He sees everything in her and loves it no matter what. And the way she shows appreciation here is just a gift. I wish everybody could find a love like this. And then whispering light doses in sickness and in health, he's reminding her that I'm here no matter what. And he's not doing it forcefully, he's doing it calmingly and soothingly. And then helping her through her affirmations. Look at thyself and speak. I am beautiful. I love myself. Just the support. I mean, that kind of support is rare. It is fucking rare. And her husband is, I've spoken to them a few times through chat and DM, and he is a great man. He is also a poet on Instagram at Poet with a Blade. And then she's describing him in her description. Warmth in his eyes, penetrating malnourished bones, clutching all my shades of blackened dress. Like, he's seeing her darkness, and he's just, his warmth is soothing her, and he sees, she's describing how she feels he's seeing her. But to me, he sees her in such a different way. He sees all the beauty and all the love and all the light she has inside of her that she struggles to see sometimes. And then to never let go. My guardian light, flesh of my flesh, hold me still as my heart takes root. Meaning she's letting herself go and just asking for him to hold her while she, her heart grows and builds and becomes stronger. And she even says that in stronger versions than I. And then bitter closet exposed, skeleton skin suit rendered silent, delicate gash whisper, I love myself. Bitter closet exposed, meaning the skeletons in the closet are no longer in the closet. They are exposed. Here I am for you and everybody to see, or in this case, for you to see her husband. And he's still there, and he's still with her and still supporting her. And it is the most beautiful thing to find that kind of love. It's a rare thing, as I said, and I just couldn't be happier that she found him and that he found her, and they fell in love in this way. It is the most amazing thing to see, and this piece is absolutely incredible. There's just something about the way she writes that just evokes beauty. And in the second slide of this piece, if you go to her account, it's down there a little ways. She posted this on where was it? February 15th. And on the second slide, it's a picture of herself, and she's a beautiful woman inside and out, and I couldn't be happy that these two people found each other, and I'm so grateful to get to read this poetry. So once again, that was The Taste of My Pen, Lois, and do check out her account. And I know you won't be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. She is just an incredible soul. So anyway, with that, I'm going to move on to the next poet I'm reading, which is the one and only Val. It's at Being You, Being True. Another super supportive person in this poetry community. She is responsible for a lot of the things I do and how I've grown as a vocal person, and putting myself out there within the live poetry community, and doing spoken word and all that stuff. Her account handle is at Being You, Being True, all one word. She reads live from her account. She is a phenomenal reader, so much fun, such a great spirit. And when I first came across her, she's the first person to ever read my poetry on a live. And she also she was so supportive in me doing lives without being pushy. She was like encouraging in a way that I've never experienced. And she kind of gave me that feeling that I could do it. And I owe a lot to her. And I appreciate it immensely. She is the co-founder of at Poet Spotlight and at Author Spotlight, and the founder of at BYBT Poetry Support. All three of those accounts do slightly different things in the poetry community, but all of them support poetry in the community. She has a book out. It's called Cascading Rivers. It's available on Amazon. The link can also be found in her bio. She's a survivor of mental and physical trauma. Her family always comes first, which I adore, and I adore her family, and she's just such a loving person. And she is also directly responsible for many of the live readers in our community, meaning she let them come on her account and read with her, whether it was just a blank screen, just to get their feet wet and get a feel for it. And through her support, so many of us, including myself, were able to start doing lives and showing their support within this community, and it's a beautiful thing. I couldn't be more thankful for this woman. Just such a great person. And I know when I read this piece, I might get emotional again. When I first read it, it literally broke me down. I was in tears. I rarely break down like that. I'm not a crier, but the older I get and the more open I become with myself, and I try to be just more, vulnerable for my own sanity. And I thank Val a lot for that too. And this is I know some people do and some people don't offer a trigger warning. I think this podcast speaks for itself. It's going to be touching on mental health, so I think that isn't really necessary, but in regards to her and respect for her, I always offer a trigger warning because she does on her posts. This post, I'm going to read the comment first. It says, trigger warning, bullying. And then if you're triggered by this, if you're triggered by this, please don't slide to read. Please note this was written over 20 years ago. I'm finally getting around to getting my writings from my old journals up and over the next few weeks. Bullying is something that should not occur. It needs to be fully stopped. It happens repeatedly every day. It happened to me, and it's happening right now as I type this. It's happening somewhere to another person. Let's raise awareness together, stronger together as one. I agree completely. And I relate to this piece on a very deep level. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to read this piece and see how it goes, because I got kind of emotional the last time I read it out loud. Out of the shadow, I was sitting in my classroom today, hair draped, trying to disappear. Trying my best not to flinch as the fingers poked my chair. I didn't mind the poking of the chair every now and then. At least it wasn't lunch break yet. That's when the fun would begin. Fun for who? Not for me, that's sure. I usually sat alone in the cemented sidewalks where most days I wasn't found. If I hid just clever enough. Funny how people say we can't wait for home time, for school to be out. I dreaded home time much more than school. At any given chance, it really didn't matter how many times my face was smacked. I was used to it. Sad, isn't it? When you're used to being attacked, that it actually starts to feel strange on the days you're actually forgotten. Today was not the day that I had completely disappeared. One swift blow from behind reminded me that the fairy tale I used to believe, if I shut my eyes, no one could see me cowering in plain sight. I didn't mind the names. I was well used to those as well. I sometimes made up different codes in my head for those ugly things they said. No matter how hard they hit me, and trust me, it was a lot. I never cried in front of them. I choked on my tears instead. Home time? A relief to hear the bell? Not for me, you see. This I went through in school was heaven to that hell. And now tugging my blankets tightly, I let my tears rain out. How much more could I suffer daily before the spirit in me stayed just plain broke? Ooh, man. Val. Oh, Val. The fact that anybody would bully you is just mind-blowing to me. If only they knew you. They were too scared to get to know you. They knew how great you were. That I'm sure of. Subconsciously they knew it, and they knew they'd never be as great as you. Bullying is... I can relate so deeply on this. I was bullied for a time, and it's not fun. Not fun at all. It's actually pretty debilitating, and it affects you pretty much the rest of your life. At least it does for me. The common tactic of bullies is to annoy you, just to get a response. And that's why they were poking at her chair. And then sitting alone, trying to be invisible. I mean, that kind of feeling is just devastating for anybody, especially a kid. And just the way she wrote this, so open and honest. I usually sat alone in the cemented sidewalks where most days I wasn't found. That's just for that to be the better part of your day has got to be so hard. Like, I just couldn't imagine. I mean, I can and I can't. I didn't suffer. I didn't go through it like that. But I just felt this piece so deep. And then to go home where you're supposed to be safe and feel comfortable and comfort and love, and to not get that there either, to get the bullying and the abuse even worse is just, I don't know. I just couldn't imagine that. Like, I have kids. I know Val has a son, and I could never imagine doing that to my kids. My home time was okay. I had a mom who loved me, and she's just a great mom. So I didn't go through that, and I think that's really when the emotions really hit me was in the second slide, she starts talking about her home life, and it's just worse. And I just could not imagine, not wanting to go home from a place where you're being bullied because you know it's coming worse. And just so many people, they live in fear for so long because they never get away from the bullying like the way it felt. It scares them to try to enjoy life and to be social and to put yourself out there because you're afraid of that, even though you're an adult and you can defend yourself better and walk away. And adults generally don't bully adults, although they do sometimes. I just couldn't imagine going through what she went through at home. And just to put herself out there like that. Val is just the most amazing person. I mean, there's so many things I could say about her. I just don't even know where to start sometimes. But this piece, it's just something that needs to be shared, that needs to be said. And I think that we need to remind everybody that bullying is not okay, and supporting that type of behavior in any way. I see it on videos online, and people are laughing and joking and treating it like it's nothing, or it's a joke, or it's funny, and it's not funny. None of it. There's nothing funny about a kid being bullied, or people bullying each other, or fighting with each other, and being hateful and hurtful to each other. It's the worst part of society, and I just think it needs to stop, and I think that's Val's message in this piece. And she's a beacon of light through all of that, through all of it. She could have went the other way, but she didn't. She stood up, she fought and fought and fought and sought help and found people who understood and put herself out there. And just the strength that shows and conveys is nothing short of just miraculous to me. She is a miracle. She is an absolute miracle. And I mean that in the best of ways. She came out of that, and then she finds a way to make people feel good about themselves when they're feeling down. She's another one who's reached out to me when I needed it, and I truly, truly appreciate her. And I couldn't say it enough. So thank you, Val, and thank you for putting yourself out there with this piece, and it's just incredible. So once again, guys, that was at Being You, Being True. Her name is Val, and do check her out on Instagram. She is just incredible. Incredible person. Ooh, drink of water here. All right. Up next, the next poet I'm reading is B. Allen Hart. I affectionately and lovingly call him Bret the Hitman Hart because it is spelled exactly the same. And Bret the Hitman Hart was a wrestler that I looked up to as a kid. So I just found that really just, kind of funny. Bret is a great guy. I'm Bret's dad. Don't spell Bret's name wrong. I'll say this till I go to the grave. I was commenting on one of his pieces, and I typed his name out with 2 T's, and his dad commented behind it, correcting my spelling. Probably found a way to still embarrass his son all these years later. But it was all good. His dad's a great guy, just like him, and so the apple does not fall far from that tree, for sure. Bret is a superb man, somebody I relate to. I call him a brother from another mother. You hear a little of my East Coast accent come out there. He is a great guy. One of my favorite people I've met in this community, for the simple fact that he's another man willing to put himself out there, be emotional, and and I say without fear, even though there is sometimes a fear, you do it anyway. He does live reads, Coffee and Poetry with Bret, on Saturdays at 9 a.m. Central. And he doesn't do that every Saturday, but he does that occasionally. And his lives are, and I've told him this, and I mean it, his live is like my favorite live. The way he reads, the poetry he chooses, the music behind it, the thoughts he offers. He invited me to be a guest on there once, and I came nowhere near to being good enough to be on that live with him. And I know he's going to argue that after he hears this, but and that's okay. He's an incredible guy, an incredible poet. He also has books out that can all be found in his bio on his Instagram handle, which is at b.alanhart. That's b.alanhart. He's a man who loves poetry, and he's a very compassionate man. He's a father, a writer, and he loves coffee, whiskey, and records. So all those things are check marks in my book. And I do have a book here because I take notes and just to kind of remind myself here of all the things all these people do, so I don't forget, because they deserve to be recognized for all these things. So the piece I'm reading of his is called Chasing Shadows. And he does tag the art, or the image is from Elijah Hall. So he puts the poetry in a caption, so that he does not have a traditional caption in this piece. So I'm going to dive right into this piece and get going. So this is called Chasing Shadows by B. Alan Hart. I am a complicated man looking for simple resolutions. Only two choices, A or B, wrong or right, yes or no. Everything is black and white. A gray, fog-covered middle ground toys with my misconceptions, offering new visions to me. Change is difficult, but awkwardly I attempt to embrace this unknown territory. The mists clear just enough for me to realize I've been here all my life, in the gray area. A life lived with indecision, overanalyzing simplicity, halting any forward progress. This fog is my comfort zone, an intricate web of self-deceit I wove to keep my mind distracted from the desires of my heart. I am a living paradox, chasing shadows to find the light, seeking salvation in slumber. I want more than comfort, so I will leave this place. It's terrifying, knowing I will be seen, knowing I will be heard, knowing I will achieve many things I thought were meant for me, and even more that I haven't conceived. I was falling again, but I found a handhold in the fog by simply reaching out for one. The bottom isn't for me, neither is the boring middle ground. Time to start over before the next end, a preemptive strike against the cycle, a chance to get it right this time. Wow. And that was Chasing Shadows by B. Alan Hart. And he is all heart. That is all heart. So from the very first lines of this piece, I am a complicated man looking for simple resolutions. Only two choices, A or B, wrong or right, yes or no. Fucking incredible. I right away drawn in, and I'm always drawn to his pieces, and I've missed some of them. I know I've missed some of them, but I am always drawn to them. They are incredible, relatable, and deeply felt by me. I read live poetry on Instagram from a couple of the platforms I'm involved with, and he is one of two people to get me very close to breaking down in tears on a live with his poetry. It was him, and the other poet was, well, I'll be reading her soon, so, but he really got me. Just hits hard. So, and back to this piece, like I said, that first line, instant. The metaphorical way he intertwines who he is and how he sees himself is pure poetry while still being raw. And he's raw and real at the same time. Like, it's just, at the same time as being metaphorical, it's just incredible throughout this piece. So he goes on, everything is black and white, a gray fog-covered middle ground, toys with my misconceptions, offering new visions to me. And it's just giving him, this gray fog is taking him out of the black and white, and it's just playing with his mind and his thoughts and his visions of himself is how I'm interpreting this piece. And then it says, change is difficult, but awkwardly I attempt to embrace this unknown territory. It's like he sees himself in this way, but he doesn't want to, and he knows he doesn't want to. And he wants to embrace this, but there's a hesitance because it's new and scary, and it's difficult because change is that. It's new, scary, and difficult. But then he says, the mist's clear just enough for me to realize I've been here all my life. Meaning change is constant. The change there is constant. And he's been changing throughout his life. He just doesn't see it, and until later, and he doesn't recognize it as change. It's just the natural order of things, is how I'm taking it. And then a life lived with indecision, overanalyzing simplicity, halting any forward progress. That I can relate to. Because you spend so much time being indecisive that time passes by and you've missed out on so many things. And for what? You're overanalyzing something that's very simple. It's yes or no. I mean, some things are difficult, but most things are pretty simple. If you want to do it, do it. Trust yourself, and if you fail, it's okay. Get back up. Then he goes on, the fog is my comfort zone, an intricate web of self-deceit I wove to keep my mind distracted from the desires of my heart. So he's in this fog, and he stays there because he's comfortable. But he knows, he's recognizing it's self-deceit, and he's created this world of fog himself, and it distracts him. And I mean, some of these lines just speak for themselves. They're just direct. And I love the way he's just so, like, and that's what I meant. His metaphor ties in with real and raw so well within this piece. Just such a great poet. And then on a living paradox, chasing shadows to find light. And that's just genius, because chasing shadows to find light. The light's behind you, like you're running in circles. That's how I take that, and that's just genius. Brilliant writing. But then he says, I want more than comfort, so I will leave this place. It's terrifying. Knowing I will be seen, knowing I will be heard, knowing I will achieve many things. And that can be very true. I want more than comfort. So I'll leave this place. It's terrifying. No matter how terrifying it is, he wants more. And these are things he never thought he'd have, because he thought that he didn't deserve them for some reason. And I think a lot of us don't value ourselves and see our self-worth enough, but we should. We really should, and he should especially. He's a great man. And then the next line, I was falling again, but I found a handhold in the fog by simply reaching out for one. Meaning the answer was always simple. Just put yourself out there. You put yourself out there. Somebody's going to be there. Somebody somewhere will be there. Even if it's yourself in some cases, somebody will be there. You'll learn to lift yourself up in some cases, but there's always a friend. You just got to put yourself out there and shoot for that and try for that. And I know I consider Brett a very, very good friend. So, and then he says, the bottom isn't for me, neither is the boring middle ground. Time to start over before the next end, a preemptive strike against the cycle. A chance to get things right this time. That right there, that's the beginning of a redemption story for oneself. That he doesn't want to be at the bottom anymore, and he doesn't want to be just, aimlessly wandering in the middle of life and just being, just being there, but not really enjoying and feeling it. I really, really like this piece. And then a chance to get it right this time, meaning there's still time, there's still a chance, because as long as you're here and breathing, there's always time. Always time. So just a great piece by Brett Allen Hart. Great piece. And it's, to me, it finishes off with like a feeling of rebirth. That's how I interpret that. He chronicles this whole story, and then there's a feeling of rebirth at the end, which I really, really like. There's so many things I could say about Brett. He is a great friend, somebody I appreciate immensely. And I'm always there for the guy, and he knows that, and he's always there for me. We reach out to each other because we're similar in a lot of ways. And like I said in the beginning of this, right before I read him, he's a brother from another mother, for sure. So with that, that was Brett. That was B. Allen Hart. And do check out his account on Instagram if you're not already. He is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite people that I've met and come across, and so many people on there. There's so many great people, so you're going to hear me say that a lot, but I mean it every time. There's so many great people to find on Instagram and in that poetry community and in the world. This is just where I'm finding some of these people. I've met many in real life as well, though. So I'm going to bring episode 2 to a close with a good friend of mine, somebody I have met through Instagram, and then we've met in real life. And she is she's quiet for the most part within publicly. She's still a fairly quiet person, and she knows that, and I'm saying it because we're great friends. She's one of my very best friends. This is Tara Nicole Writes, and that's her handle on Instagram. However, I am reading from her website, which is taranicolewrites.com. She is a great friend of mine, one of my very best friends, and it started from me fangirling her. And I say fangirling her with the utmost respect to the term. I mean it in a positive way. I was a big fan. I met her in a live. Somebody was reading her, and we were chatting within the comments, and I heard her poetry, and then she commented that she had a website, and I was like, I have to read more. And I did, and I spent an entire night reading through her website. She's just incredible. She does live read. We live read together. We become great friends. We live read together on Wednesdays from the platform account Poets Anonymous, which we are both co-founders of. She co-founded Rhymers. She founded Rhymers Block Extension, which is an extension of Rhymers Block, which is an app that is owned and operated by a guy named Ron. She met him on that account. She started writing there, and her writing was she wrote from a character from her handle Kitty City on Rhymers Block, and she made a very, very big splash and name for herself with her writing because it is so phenomenal. She writes in so many forms and styles. She's raw, she's real, she is just telling you a story. She can also do flash fiction or fiction, but there's always a little bit of truth to it, a little bit of her to it. And she is just one of my best friends, one of my favorite writers. And I love her to death. I absolutely do. She has like I was saying earlier, she is quiet, but she has the biggest heart. She is all heart, and her strength and all she's been through in her life is something I admire, and I will for the rest of my life, and I am grateful to have met her. I was blown away when I met her, and I mean that with all sincerity. Blown the fuck away. And I'm blown away to this day by her willingness to be her true self and have zero, she has zero fear. She puts herself out there fearlessly, writing herself, writing her story, and she is a far better writer than she gives her self credit for. And I keep bugging her to do a book, but like me, she's a procrastinator. We have a lot in common. I just can't say enough nice things about her. I could go on for another hour just saying nice things about her, so I'm going to go ahead and read one of her pieces, and this is probably not the piece she's expecting me to read. Maybe, I don't know. I did tell her, because I do tell everybody that I'm going to read them for the podcast, but I don't tell them the piece. I mean, if they really asked and wanted to know, I'd tell them, but I'd rather they just be surprised on here. So anyway, this piece is called Uncomfortable. It can be found on her website. I'm pretty sure it was on her Instagram, but I'm pretty sure she archived it. So this piece, I'm just going to read it because, like I said, I'll just keep going on. And it's called Uncomfortable. These moms all have husbands. I can't help but fear they will ask about mine. So are you divorced? Clearly there's no ring, so either they think that or I'm just another white girl who got pregnant by a black guy that didn't stick around. This is one of those baby daddy situations. These are upper middle class, happy soccer mom book club types who wouldn't know about such drama, so what will make them look worse to them? What will make me look worse to them? The scenario or the truth? I had a husband, one father to all three of my kids who was there at PTA meetings and dance recitals and graduations, who washed dishes and did laundry, loved us wholeheartedly but suffered with depression and an addiction to gambling that destroyed us all. So he took his own life in front of me in the most horrifically violent way he could. So which makes me look worse? Widow of a monster or white trash baby maker? I can't win here. My bleached blonde hair, yoga pants, and flip-flops scream I'm not one of them. But they smile and they engage me in small talk and I wait. I wait for the question and contemplate their reaction. The one where I can see it on their face, that look of, I never should have asked. Now this is uncomfortable. Ladies, it was uncomfortable long before you asked. And that is Tara Nicole Wrights, and I have given her the hashtag of Tara fucking Nicole, and that can also be found on Instagram. Phenomenal piece. There's a lot in this piece, and it speaks for itself. Describing what it's like to be in your own head, trying to decide, should I just tell them the truth or let them think what they want? Because no matter what, you're fucked. Which is worse? You know what I mean? Like, and that's what she's saying, and she says it directly. I don't need to offer too much breakdown of this piece, but I had to read her on this podcast because, again, I'm a huge fan, and I'm not going to tell her story on here. You can go to her page and look for it, or I'm sure she's going to be on this podcast at some point with me to discuss it. She's very open about it, and I'd rather leave it to that, tell her whole story. It is a very long one, and but anyway, this is one of those one of those baby daddy situations that is just so real and so true, where people just pass judgment upon you. They will pass judgment based on what they see without ever asking or contemplating or considering your feelings, your emotions, or how things went for you. And they will, in a way, blame you or judge you for that, no matter what. Because most of the time, and I'm sorry to say this in society, and it's not with many of the people I know, but there are a lot of people out there who are just assholes. They're superficial assholes. And then the scenario or the truth. And so basically, what's worse? Like, telling them the scenario or the truth? Like, I had a husband, one father to all three of my kids, who was there at PTA meetings and dance recitals and graduations, who washed dishes and did laundry and loved us wholeheartedly. And she knows that about her husband. And she knows that about him, but who's going to believe that? Because he suffered from depression and an addiction to gambling. So who's going to believe that? Because they're just going to think she's sugarcoating it, because they don't want to understand depression. They don't want to understand addiction and gambling, and they don't want to understand that some people suffer from this real affliction because they don't see it as that, because they don't have it and don't understand it. And I think the lack of knowledge in that is just is the catalyst for them thoughts that people have. And then she's direct within this piece where, he took his life in the most horrifically way possible in front of me, and he did. But then she asks to these women, so which makes me look worse? Widow of a monster or white trash baby maker? Because that's all you're going to see. No matter what you say, that's all you're going to see, because some people in life, that's just how they are. They only care about what they want to see, and they're uninformed, misguided, and just wrong. Tara is neither of those things. Tara is an amazing mother, an amazing writer, a hard worker, and one of the most loving, caring people I've ever met. And I will stand by that until the day I die. And she recognizes I can't win here. My bleached blonde hair, yoga pants, and flip-flops scream I'm not one of them, meaning I don't fit in with these people and they know it. I'm token. I'm a token here, and that's just, that's a shitty feeling to have. But at least she's honest about it and recognizes it, so she's like, fuck them. But they smile, engage me in the small talk, and I wait. I wait for the questions and contemplate their reaction. Because she's just waiting. It's almost like she knew the answer to the question, what does she do? Does she tell them the truth or just let them think what they want? She's going to tell them the truth just because she wants that reaction. She wants that confirmation, and she'll get it in most cases. And she says that, the one where I can see it on their face, that look of, I never should have asked, and now this is uncomfortable. Yeah, it's fucking uncomfortable because you don't understand and you don't have any empathy for people. That's why it's uncomfortable. And that's why I say sometimes, in some cases, people are just assholes. And she finishes, ladies, it was uncomfortable long before you asked. Yep, it was. She was already uncomfortable because these people, she could already sense they didn't give a shit about anything but themselves and their clothes and their new cars and whatever else they have. Just a true, raw, real right, and fucking incredible from Tara. And once again, Tara Nicole Wright's fucking incredible. One of my favorite people, a great poet, a great writer, and a huge, huge heart. I love her so much, so great. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up episode 2 with this piece. Once again, TaraNicoleWrites.com. She curates for Poets Anonymous. We do live reads together. She is on Rhymer's Block. That's Kitty City on Rhymer's Block. It's an app that is on Apple. Right now, Apple only, but I heard rumors that it's going to be available on the Google Play Store relatively soon, so look for that. And she also curates an account that I help her with. It's Rhymer's Block Extension. And that's pretty much it. Tara, get that book out, okay? You need it. So the poets read tonight, or on this podcast, were Tara Nicole Writes, B. Allen Hart, At Being You Being True, and At the Taste of My Pen. And I thank all of them for allowing me this opportunity to read them. And I thank all of you for listening and let me offer my thoughts on these pieces. And just appreciate you guys so much for listening. It means a lot to me, and I hope to expand on this platform and do more with this podcast. And I hope you guys join in and maybe join on the podcast. I think my next episode, one of my next episodes, I will have my first guest, and we will be on here together talking a little bit. So look forward to that. And with that, I will say have a great night, and hope to hear feedback from all of you. Thanks a lot.